In October of 1896, a hurricane drove a 10-foot wall of water across Cedar Key, Florida. It killed dozens of people, leveled most of the town, and ended what had been the busiest port on Florida's Gulf Coast. The pencil mills closed. The train passengers stopped coming. And Cedar Key shrank from a city of 5,000 down to something barely larger than a village. It took a long time to recover from that storm. Some would argue it never fully did. That was 1896. Between August 2023 and October 2024, Cedar Key was hit by 3 hurricanes in 13 months. Idalia, Debby, and Helene struck in rapid succession. And right in the middle of that window, before Helene made landfall, a fire tore through the heart of Dock Street at 5:30 in the morning. This is the Gallivanter Podcast. I'm Chad. Cedar Key sits on Way Key, a small barrier island 3 miles off Florida's Nature Coast. The permanent population is roughly 700 people. There are no chain restaurants, no stoplights, and no illusions about what it means to live somewhere that the Gulf of Mexico can reach. The town has always known storms. The high water marks painted on a wall in downtown tell that story at a glance. You can stand there and read the history of every major hurricane, each line higher than the last, until you get to the top, where Hurricane Helene's mark sits in September 2024. 8 to 12 feet of storm surge, depending on which part of the island you were standing on. It started 2 years before that, with Idalia. In August 2023, Hurricane Idalia made landfall as a Category 3, about 90 miles north of the island, near Keaton Beach. It was the strongest hurricane to hit the Big Bend region since 1896. The storm surge from Idalia set a record for Cedar Key at nearly 7 feet. Clam farmers pulled into shore and watched the water take bags they had spent months planting. One farmer lost 85% of his crop. The town started cleaning up. Then came Debby. Debby hit in August 2024. People were still rebuilding from Idalia. Some had not finished. They cleaned up from Debby and got back to work. Then, on the morning of September 19th, 2024, a fire started at the Rusty Hook Bait Shop on Dock Street and spread quickly through the adjacent buildings. Duncan's on the Gulf was completely destroyed. Steamer's restaurant took heavy damage. The island trading post lost more than $1 million in inventory. 8 different fire departments responded. The city declared a disaster. The mayor called it an economic catastrophe. 1 week later, Hurricane Helene made landfall as a Category 4. The surge from Helene surpassed Idalia's record. On some parts of Cedar Key, it reached 12 feet. About a quarter of the homes on the island were destroyed. Businesses that had survived the fire were inundated. Clam farmer Michael Presley Bobbitt had just replanted his lease after the damage from Idalia. He had 1.5 million clams in the water. Helene picked them up and deposited them in the trees on a barrier island a quarter-mile away. Some residents were on their 3rd cleanup in 13 months. Some were starting over for the 4th time. Cedar Key has rebuilt before. It's a documented pattern going back to the 1896 storm, and the lesson the town has drawn from it, again and again, is that you pick up what's left and you go back to work. The economic backbone of modern Cedar Key is shellfish aquaculture. After the 1994 net ban eliminated most commercial fishing in Florida waters, federal retraining funds helped Cedar Key fishermen transition to clam farming. It took years. It required learning an entirely different relationship with the water, but it worked. By the time the storms started hitting in earnest, Cedar Key was producing more than 90% of Florida's farm-raised clams. The industry supported over 500 jobs and put an estimated $45 million a year into the local economy. Then, the storms came. Clam farming is outdoor work in a coastal environment. You cannot move the leases inland. You cannot put a roof over the water. When a Category 4 hurricane drives 12 feet of surge across your farm, you lose the crop, and you may lose the equipment. And then you have to decide whether to take out another loan and start all over again, knowing that another storm is possible before the next harvest. On the tourism side, the damage to Dock Street cut directly into the revenue that keeps the rest of the island's small businesses afloat. The street used to fill with cars every weekend. After the fire and the hurricanes, it went quiet. Restaurants that visitors had counted on for years were either gone, relocated, or operating behind construction fencing. And then came the federal money, or more accurately, the wait for it. Residents across Cedar Key described the FEMA process as something close to a second disaster in slow motion. The agency took too long to respond, bounced applicants from agent to agent, and presented paperwork requirements that were difficult to navigate without professional help. Business owners who needed money to rebuild were instead financing the work on personal loans, making decisions about what to rebuild and whether to build the same thing or something different, without the resources they had been promised. Jordan Keaton, owner of 83 West on Dock Street, was facing his fourth rebuild. He said he was taking his time to make sure that whatever went back up would actually last. The bottom floor of his building would no longer be a restaurant. He was thinking about a marina. That was a 2 to 3 year plan. Every electrician, plumber, and elevator technician on the island was needed at the same time, and there were only so many of them to go around. By late 2024 and into 2025, Cedar Key was having a conversation that small coastal towns are increasingly forced to have. One that has no easy answer and no comfortable consensus. Can you keep rebuilding in the same place in the same way? And if not, what does rebuilding differently actually look like? The Cedar Key City Commission had already been thinking about this before Helene. At its August 2024 meeting, the Commission adopted a new community redevelopment area plan and extended its life to 2054. The plan is designed around resilience as a core function, not an afterthought. Tax increment revenue generated within the CRA can be directed toward capital improvements and used as matching funds for federal and state grants. The National Trust for Historic Preservation put Cedar Key on its list of America's most endangered historic places in 2025. That designation brought attention, but also a sharp question. What is worth preserving, and what does preservation mean when the water levels keep rising? The population in Cedar Key has been dwindling. Some residents left after Idalia and did not come back. More left after Helene. The people who stayed are, by definition, the ones who decided that Cedar Key was worth the risk and the work. They are the people who looked at the high water marks on that downtown wall, saw where Helene's line sat at the top, and chose to stay anyway. When you visit now, you will see a street that is partly quiet and partly under construction, and partly, in places, already back. The pier is accessible and filled almost every day with fishermen. Dock Street has businesses open. The clam farmers are back on the water. But the rebuilding is not finished. The permits are slow, the trades are stretched thin. The grocery situation is still not what it was, and hurricane season comes back every year. Cedar Key is not a cautionary tale. It is a town mid-sentence, still deciding what the next paragraph says. In the next episode, we go inside that next paragraph. We stay in a 150-year-old building that just took 9 feet of water outside its walls and came back as something beautiful.